Happy Friday, friends, on this Friday morning. And sorry about that technical interruption. Hopefully our signal will hold this morning. I'm Tara Thomas.
And I'm Amanda Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us. It is Friday, October 11th, and I just did it. I cannot not go into like
our
news
anchor
voice.
Voices, our anchor, especially in the morning, we have that deep
we always
vibration,
have deep voices,
vibrato.
which I'm glad we have. People used to make fun of me for my deep voice. They would call me man voice. And I would get really upset about it. But I'm so thankful that, I have a deep voice rather than...
Same.
The opposite.
I actually feel bad for Patrick Mahomes because
I don't, because I'm an Eagles fan.
Yeah. They make fun of him for his height, which you can't help. But it is interesting that when you are a woman that has the deeper sounding voice, I think we both can relate to this. It would be hard to imagine yourself with a man who had a higher voice than you.
Oh yeah, no. And I know plenty, and I've worked with many, and I always would laugh because, we would get talked to by the consultants about, how to pronounce things and, how to deliver things. And I remember thinking, are you going to talk to him about his voice? I mean, nothing. They were untouchable, but our speaking series covers that. And speaking of, we are at the Mississippi Moon Bar at the Diamond Joe Casino.
It is such a huge deal for us because you guys have to understand this Mississippi Moon Bar. If you haven't been in it, it's this incredible venue in Eastern Iowa and has been home to or has been, featuring incredible performers. I saw Ted Nugent there with Dave, my husband, years ago. And I just remember thinking, what a cool space.
Now here you are.
And now we're going to be on this stage. I'm so grateful to Carrie Tidor. She was a former longtime casino person as far as doing the marketing in the entertainment world. And she's been a huge supporter of us from the beginning. She came to our original show in Dubuque. And when we said, hey, we'd love to try to get this ultimate ladies night out into venues like something that's so, like the Surf, that's so unique and so incredible. In terms of the atmosphere. So it's going to be a great show, and there are still tickets available. They have different options, everything from standing to suites and tables. And you can go to the Mississippi Moon Bar website if you'd like to purchase a ticket. And it's a little bit later. Show starts at 8, so that will give you plenty of time to get your girls together and have dinner and do something, to really make it a big night out.
It's going to be, my spicy one's coming because she thinks this is a big deal.
Oh, good.
So I don't know if she thinks that she's going into the casinos to play the slots, but I'm like, Luch, you're staying with me. And, but no, it's going to be a great night. We're looking forward to it. And,
we
all
love
of the things.
when Lucci comes.
We love when Luch comes. So I talked about it on my AG page, and I think I talked about it on here. But I've gotten so much response about it. I was offered a big corporate job recently. And when I say things on paper, amazing, like had, the amount of money, the benefits were basically pay next to nothing. And when you get old like us, that's what you look for, right? You look for those benefits in the PTO. And then it was just the one caveat, like we gotta monitor what you're writing on your Amanda Goodman page. And we have to, you can no longer do your Faith in 4-letter word speaking series, which they've never attended. And it was so funny, Tara, because there was not a millisecond of hesitation. Mm-hmm. It was like, no. And I just politely declined. And it was so freeing, but I'm so thankful for the growth that I've had in 10 years.
Right.
Because if it was 10 years ago and I was still conditioned in the boys club of television news, I would have been like, okay. Sure. Okay. Yeah. I got to do it. Yeah. Whatever you want. Like, I'll put those puppet strings on. And so how freeing. And the irony of the whole thing, it's our speaking series that was like, no.
And this is the thing that many people will relate to. What we tolerated in our 20s, even our 30s on the job, it's hard to imagine in your 40s and 50s that you wouldn't evolve into a place where you would do better and you would know better and you would be more comfortable putting those boundaries in place to say, okay, I'm not going to continue to be treated like this. I'm not going to continue to work in an environment that makes me feel less than.
Yeah.
So I think that we are fortunate that we've been able to move into other career spaces and places where we didn't have to, as we like to say, check our souls at the door. Yeah. And I think it's a fearful reality, though, that a lot of people are put in, where it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't like about this, but the alternative is, what if I can't find another job? Or the imposter syndrome of, what if nobody else will like me or want me? And I think we've discovered in our lives, especially for me, driven by my faith, that if God doesn't want you to stay in a place of being stuck, there will be doors and opportunities that open that you could never conceive would even come forward.
And that's what I told you. I said that there was a calm that fell over me. There was this calm, like, I can't even explain it. I cannot even explain it. But I knew I'm at that point in my faith and in my belief, and listening to Tara, really leaning into you. And it was kind of, you were the whole time like, nope, it's fine. You're fine. And it was this calm. And then it was immediately a couple of days later, there was some contracting work, because I want to work from home. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want anybody working for me. I just want to write. And I had a couple opportunities where nobody knows who I am.
That's what's so incredible, right? That blessing of you are getting opportunities purely from your gifts and talents, and not because somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody pulled a string, made a call.
Well, okay, and let me tell you, I think people would assume that it would be really easy for me to pick up a phone and get a job anywhere. And I'm not saying this to be egotistical, but it's, I mean, to come in, nobody wants to hire me. Nobody locally will hire me. They won't, because it's either they think that I'm a liability, or they think that I'm difficult to control. People who don't know anything about me are making judgment about me. So I am very comfortable saying, I don't want to work for you either. I mean, I pulled out of positions that I had applied for that I was just like, I have a feeling I'm going to have to go in a box. And so I want to write my own script. This chapter is about me completely taking full control of it. And we're doing the speaking series, and, but down the road, I told you what I really want to do. And I'm working on getting, my accreditation from the Iowa Board of Education is to be a high school journalism teacher.
I love that. You'd be so good. The kids would love you.
I mean, because here's the thing, and I'm going to be completely direct and blunt. Shocker. Young journalists today are awful. They are press, they're awful. I'm sorry. Awful. I'm sorry. I mean, prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. But they're press release reporters. And what I mean by that is, I send a press release to the news station, and then a reporter would write right off that press release. There are no phone calls. There's no showing up on the scene anymore. There's no asking the important questions. It's just, you talk about puppets. So I want to go back to old school journalists, where we're teaching kids to wake up in the morning, and when you're going to school, ask yourself, why? Like, why? Why is this there? Like, get inquisitive and start asking the right questions. Because every time we pick up this, we're being a journalist. So every time they post a TikTok, anytime they post anything, they're being a journalist. So we have to teach them how to do it the right way. So I was like, I can either continue to complain about young journalists, or I can try to be part of the solution. But we'll see if any schools hire me.
But that's the beauty of the digital age now. You can do a lot of instruction virtually. So I think there will be opportunities beyond the scope of our little bubble here too. So I'm so happy for you. And I think the other piece of it that, we knew would be a factor is, after years of being in a position of sort of having to supervise people, as we both have done post TV, it's not fun to supervise people. Well,
it's not, because there's that fine line. There is that fine line where you want to be the boss that you always wanted, right? Like, and that's one thing I said. I will always try to lead with compassion and empathy.
But then you can't be a friend.
You can't be a friend.
It's so hard.
You kind of have to live your life at, F around and find out, right? You know what I mean? Like, don't take advantage of me. And it's just too difficult. Like, I just kind of want to,
women go to women supervisors and bosses with all of their emotional woes much differently than how they approach male bosses.
Oh, 1000%.
And I found that to be very challenging, because if you are dealing then with circumstances that are going way out into the weeds with drama and emotion, you're thinking to yourself, if I were a man, no one would have ever come and, threw this on my lap, because there would have been this level of reverence and respect, like, oh, he's too busy or too above dealing with that. But we are supposed to like get down into the weeds and get messy, just because women are taking advantage of us and pulling those emotional strings. So I champion women in leadership positions, knowing that they have to take on almost that extra layer of dealing with emotions that the men are given a pass to have to deal with.
Well, we have to do too much. Our expectations as women are just like sky high, and nobody can attain them. And it's so funny, because it's other women who will be the first ones to point out that another woman is like not doing what she's supposed to doing, or like has the standards. Like, we are the worst. I had an experience. I wanted to talk about this, because I was writing a blog. I haven't posted it yet, but I was talking about, I never wanted to be the first to leave. Like when I was a kid, whether it was a party, a sleepover, I never wanted to be the first person to leave. And it had nothing to do with because I was, I wanted to be the life of the party. I was afraid to leave because I didn't want to be talked about. Because we all knew, like, whoever left first, somebody would say something. And then everyone else would join in, because as children, that's what you do, right? That you don't, and because you just want to go with the crowd. I had something like that happen the other day. There was a table of colleagues, and they were all female, and they were talking about people who weren't there, and then two other people,
not your colleagues, but
not my colleagues, overheard. Okay. And then there was a couple of young women who left the table to go back to work, and it was like,
so they were like on their lunch break.
And then the moment that those two left, the whole table started talking about them, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, we are too old. So this is why it's like, so I want to encourage everyone, leave the table, right? If you're afraid to leave the table or the room, then you know that you're not at the right table or in the right room. And you hear people use all these analogies all the time, like, find your table. It's not your room. But if you were having that gut reaction, that's the thing I didn't realize as a kid. I was never with the right people then. Mm-hmm. If I was worried about, like, when I leave the room and you and I know, and I have a few other people in my circle that I know,
small circle.
Oh, I mean, they will fight for me. They will never talk about me. I mean, and so the other people, like, I know if I leave rooms and I'm the topic of conversation, it happened recently, but that's okay. I don't care, because their opinions don't mean anything to me. But if you're doing that, like, leave the middle school lunch table. Like, And so now I'm looking at these people, because I knew where they all worked, and I'm like, well, I will never go to your business, because if I go there, you're going to like talk about me at lunch.
The flip side of that, though, that is actually pretty brilliant, that she and I both have executed in our lives. If you know, and many people are in this camp, if you know that you can't trust a lot of your coworkers, you can strategically use that to your advantage, because you can share information
and like secondhand.
Know that you would like to tell the boss directly, but you don't feel that you're in a position to share it. So you plant that information among coworkers, because you know that it's going to get back. And so I was famous for doing that in many circumstances where it was like, okay, you're not going to hear it directly from me, because for whatever reason, it's not the time or place, or you don't feel comfortable. But knowing that, all the kiss ups who were around that had their rear nose so far up the boss's rear end, it's like, okay, I will say this to that person, knowing it's going to get back.
Now, would they say, Tara said?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Which is fine.
So, but you were always comfortable with that.
Because then it was like, I just wanted them to know, like, this is what people think and this is what people feel. They won't tell it to your face. However, if you want to, hear the secondhand. And that never bothered me, knowing that it was going to be repeated, because we had come out of a business where we constantly had, our backs against the wall. And so it's sad, but I always felt like we were on the defense in TV.
Oh, we were always on it. And it was because, well, first of all, in our position, we were the main female anchor. So that was the top position, and that was the most coveted. And so women were always coming for us. I mean, it was, I mean, I remember people going to my bosses and saying, well, Amanda did this and Amanda did that because they were coming for my job. When I was in Texas and I had just started anchoring, and I was the anchor of the morning show at the time. It was November. You can't have off. I had just found out my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He's, fine and everything. Just found out. I don't care if it's sweeps.
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah, he had his prostate removed. Sorry, Dad, he had his prostate removed. But yeah, he had prostate cancer and he was diagnosed, and it was November, and I left. I just left. This girl, and you know who you are. She went to my, she's probably watching. She watches me like I watch the Cowboys. She went to my boss and said that I made the whole thing up. She went to everybody. Cause what had happened, I couldn't afford, I was making $6.50 an hour, right? In like my first television job. And so the station just rallied around me and they collected this like collection plate to get me gas money. Cause I couldn't call my parents and say, hey, you're going through all this right now and buy me a plane ticket. So I was going to drive. And they collected money to get me like gas money or if an airfare, like whatever I wanted. And she went around and told everybody that I lied. My dad never had prostate cancer. I mean, I came back and I was ready for East Coast. I was ready, take the hoops out and handle it. But I was a professional. But that's what it was, because at the time, the morning show was growing and our team was becoming so popular and more people were talking about the morning show than we're talking about the evenings. And it's that level of competition. When I say it's cutthroat, so there is nothing anybody can say about me or Tara or do to me or Tara that has not already been done. I mean, you throw us in the ocean, we'll float we'll sink because we have so many stab wounds in the back. I mean, really, it was that. Not only were we enduring the boys club, but it was the participating female members who were so dirty and slimy behind the scenes. And then they would smile and like the OGs of chocolate covered razor blades. I mean, it was, sure. They were,
and it's sad because it's being people of faith. We try to stay optimistic and come from a place of hope and gratitude. But I'll tell you that business journalist, especially in TV, you become so cynical and jaded. I mean, by the time we were 25, we were very cynical people because you've just seen so many, you've seen the worst of society every day that you're reporting. But then beyond that, in your midst, you just see this sea of toxicity because there's so many people that are just, trying to claw their way to the top at any cost. And I mean, we've talked about this before. We know of people who had to change their names, had to really kind of sell their souls just to get to that next level, to that next market. And so I always felt like, hey, if that's what it took to be, Savannah Guthrie or even like an Oprah Winfrey, then I'm never going to be that person because there's no way that I can do all the things and at the end of the day feel like I'm just like this soulless person who's now going to Diddy's white party, Which we have to talk about that. That's our newsworthy topic for the day. Well, that and Elon releasing the humanoids. Oh, I didn't. I have not. Okay. First of all, we have to go back when you just talked, I feel like I'm in a lucid dream right now. When you talked about floating in the ocean, instantly what came to mind is I would be so buoyant because this week I've just been on this downward spiral of carbs and sugar, topped off yesterday by those beignet style donuts at Olive Garden where they have the not little, but pretty large dish of chocolate sauce and raspberry sauce to dip in. I haven't and just covered in powdered sugar. And so, because you lean towards sweets, right? No, I'm usually pretty good about avoiding them, but when when you what's your sweets? When I go off the wagon, I'm off the wagon. I mean, my mom, my sister and I know my mom's watching. Our biggest joke is anytime we go to any kind of celebration where there's cake, our line is, when's cake cutting? So it's like, I'm the one who's like hovering around said cake or whatever.
The lurking, waiting around the wedding cake, just waiting.
And I have no shame. I'm not going to be worried if people are like, oh wow, she didn't hesitate to be the first one.
No, you love your cake.
To get the slice. No, like
don't apologize for that.
So my mom and I, we would be like disappointed if we go to weddings and they didn't have like the traditional white wedding cake, because that's my mom's favorite cake, you know? So this new chain that we don't have here, but they have in Iowa City, that bunt cake place. What's it called?
Nothing But Bunts.
Yes. My sister now has had 2 of those cakes there because they have one in Peoria. And I kid you not, my mom
that would be
brought
dangerous
one here.
for me.
It stays so moist.
Ugh.
Days after you buy it. And so my sister this last weekend, when it was her anniversary, her husband doesn't really eat cake. So she said she ate like the whole cake over the weekend. So then that got me thinking, when I was thinking about those donuts, that how good at Grumpy's Roadhouse were those fried pickle wontons and then the pretzel.
Oh, the pretzel.
And so, so we had to give a shout out to Grumpy's Roadhouse, one of our sponsors. We appreciate all that they're doing to heighten the taste buds or satisfy the taste buds of people in Waverly, as well as
Fredericks. And listen, the bridge is open. It's really the bridge in Waverly, Iowa. It's a big thing. I mean, they had to take down that bridge. It needed major repairs. It's going to take about 1.5 years, but downtown is still open, and please go support those businesses, especially Fredericks. And I know that they have an amazing.
We need to go up there for the brunch.
I want to go for the Sunday brunch. I'm a brunch person.
Me too.
And it's, that's so East Coast too. And you went to school in Boston, right? Like brunch, East Coast people, we know how to brunch, right? Like it's kind of our thing. So go check out Fredericks. And also, I mean, I have to see this sweater.
I love it.
Okay. So this sweater is so warm and cozy. I got this at Midwest Blessed Boutique in Cedar Falls. And I have to say, so she and I, we were talking about, because we're having a show there in December. It sold out in less than 24 hours. It was crazy. So she and I are upstairs of her boutique. It's massive. This store is massive. And so we're upstairs where the event's going to be, and we're looking down, and this poor woman, Aubrey, is talking to me, and I cannot even focus because I am staring down at this sweater. And that's how it works with my ADD and shopping. Like once I see it, if it catches my eye, I have to go and get it immediately before someone else gets it. And then I won't stop thinking about it. So I'm like, I just have to buy it now, because otherwise, but yeah, I mean, it
looks so cozy and
comfy.
It
is so, I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this.
With my latte, it's just, I love it, but I wanted to.
So that boutique is like a hidden gem. And now the fact that she has that second level, almost balcony that overlooks the boutique floor. She's accommodating. How many did we sell?
There's 150, and it sold out very quickly. And this is what I love about her. I mean,
she was supporting us before
from the jump.
There was any skin in the game for her.
She was supporting us from the jump. The comments that she was saying, like, she is just one of those women who is literally clapping for other women and wants nothing in return. She has, she was telling me she opens her boutique up for other local women business owners who make like jewelry. She wants to give them the opportunity to like sell their stuff there because she has this amazing storefront.
That's great.
She has a young woman from University of Northern Iowa who's, I believe, a business major. But the girl, she's like, I don't want to get into business. I'm like, good for you, girl. Avoid corporate America. So she started repurposing clothes. So she'll put like Carhartt shirts together with University of Iowa shirt. Like, she designs these things, and now this young girl, like this young college student, is selling. I mean, you have to check it out. So Aubrey gives all these women opportunity, and those are the kind of women we want to partner with. So where there's no underlying competition
agenda. So when she first started supporting through social media, I remember thinking, oh, this is an interesting name, Midwest Plus Boutique. I had no idea that it was local. Yeah. I really didn't. So, I mean, that's been a pleasant surprise.
She's a really huge following. And so that's why we wanted to give her, because the authentic women, we need to know who these people are, right? We need to know who the real is, because too many people, I just posted about it this morning, too many people are trying to be popular and they're not being authentic. We're not in 6th or 7th grade anymore, right? Like, just be authentic, because that's what I want in my life. And that's where I want to spend my money. And people who are authentic and who just don't go with the crowd just to be well liked. I mean, anybody can be. liked.
Speaking of going with the crowd, back to the Diddy situation. So what bothers me is so many people get to a level of fame, influence, wealth, power, etc. Are they then turning a blind eye to sexual abuse?
Yes.
And making it seem like, well, that's, I know that it's going on, but it's not my place to snitch, when really it's about self-preservation.
It's absolutely.
And protecting the house of cards.
Absolutely.
And that's so hard because we've been there where we've seen situations happen on the job, sometimes to us directly, and all the people that were witnesses remained silent to protect their own rears. And that's a hard pill to swallow when you're in those situations. But this is an astronomical moral code, disbanding of moral codes.
The way it went down is everyone was selling their souls because all these people wanted to be famous. They wanted to be, and when the Pied Piper is promising you all of the riches and all of the things, and you're under this influence and you get under the spell, and then everyone around, it's when you have, I saw a documentary the other day on a young producer. She's like, you're not going to go against Diddy. He had the key to the city. He had the key to New York City. So he knows everybody. But it's all because of that video. Had that video from CNN of him beating up Cassie and pulling her down. It never would have, and I hate that she had to go through that, but that, being released and then her filing that lawsuit. Yeah, it's all coming out. And here's the thing. And people are talking about the baby oil, and they're joking about the baby oil and all these thousands of bottles that the FBI confiscated. There was stuff in that baby oil. FBI doesn't care if you have baby oil in your house. There's allegedly some kind of date rape drug, something that was permeating the skin in the baby oil. Gosh. This is what they're alleging, and that's why the FBI wanted it. But they're saying that this is why so many people, went, think about it. Remember Mace? Mace was up and coming, he did Mo Money, Mo Problems. He did all these things. And at the height of his career, he was working for Diddy. Height of his career, he stops. He gets out and he goes become a pastor. This is why. This is why. When he was asking, Diddy asking 50 Cent to go shopping? 50 was like, I'm not going shopping. There's
a
lot.
This is what we need to mention as well. I have heard a lot of people say, why should Diddy go down when people like Hugh Hefner get a pass? And my interpretation is that the distinction between the two, when Hugh Hefner invites you to be a Playboy bunny and, he had his ridiculous reality show with 7 women at the Playboy Mansion, I feel like to some extent, they were going in eyes wide open, knowing they're going to be basically prostitutes. Whereas I think with the Diddy situation, there was this assumption that this guy is a respected music industry mogul. So my child or a young woman going to be with him in whatever, way that takes shape, meaning party or social gathering. I think there was this sort of trust that he was going to be a mentor and not be somebody who became a sexual abuser, even though as they were getting older, some of those victims clearly had to understand this was a transactional situation that ultimately involved them being in sexual relationships.
Well, you have heard, and Usher has said this on record, that he was young and he was going to parties and there were naked women and he thought I'm not supposed to be here. I just want to be in the studio. But he couldn't say anything. So now it was I was coming here today, this morning, and I'm I don't even know what music I can listen to anymore. Because who's affiliated with it, right? Because when the whole R. Kelly thing went down, it was what? You're nasty. Well, and then it was that was some of my favorite music. And I remember deleting all the songs. Fiesta, Hotel, because now when I listen.
You remind me of my Jeep.
You remind me of my Jeep. And now I'm ew, he's talking about children. You can't even listen to the songs
It's so
anymore.
interesting you say that because where I deviated from that approach, my children, my husband and I, we all went to that Michael Jackson 1 Cirque show in Vegas. And I'm telling you, it's one of the best productions I've ever seen because they have the hieroglyphic of Michael Jackson. And I just remember thinking the whole time, I'm going to let this post-Jackson fame potential sexual abuse thing be suspended in my mind to attend this show, even though the principle is still you're supporting somebody who was basically, in his later years, a pedophile.
Well, it's like my husband and I were talking about it one time because my husband's like, they're all like this. Well, he's like, because it's like the seedy.
Now we're seeing that
it's a seedy business. It is. It's a very seedy business, and it's the industry. And you and I were not on that. We were in. Like the news business is a very small form of show business. So
for sure.
I 1000% believe every allegation that comes against a celebrity when it has to do with power and influence and control. Because even on a small scale, we were told what haircut to have, what hair color to have, and we were like, okay. Whatever you want. Okay. Yeah. Because we want it to be, we didn't want to be famous. We just wanted to be journalists. We wanted to be TV news anchors. It's something that she and I both wanted to do ever since we were little girls. So it was a blind loyalty. Whatever you said. Oh, I have to miss my brother's wedding because it sweeps. Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll get fired if I go. Okay. I won't go to my brother's wedding.
No, it's true. So imagine that level of pressure times 10 tied to
a million. Yeah.
Money, fame, and now ultimately reputation, because that's where, sadly, I do think that we may never see that Diddy list come to light, much like Epstein's, because right now millions of dollars are exchanging hands behind the scenes that we're never going to know about.
My husband just told me last night that he had read an article, and it was from a legitimate news source. He doesn't, so I'm quoting this, but he had said that last year, he said everything that Diddy owns is now in his mother's name and all his children's names, all of his assets. And also he gave all his artists rights to their music. What producer does that? Gave all the rights, and in exchange, they had to sign an NDA. So he has known for quite some time that something was going to happen. This was on a latest report. So it was, when you're that slick, you know what you're doing is wrong. So
I still want to know
release the tapes. Release the list.
I know. I still want to know what Ben Affleck thinks.
First of all, this is what we were just talking about this last night. I think somehow it's related. This is me. This is not news. This is not news. This is just my this is all opinion. Listen, people forget Ben Affleck is a, Hollywood superstar. He's from the south of Boston. Like, he's street smart. Like, he is street smart. So I think he knew something happened in relation to this. I don't know. I feel like that's what made it go hard left.
Now, she's come out this week saying it sounds like the way she's positioning it is that she was pretty much blindsided insofar as the implosion.
Is this the photo, the spread of her in her bikini?
The Vanity Fair.
Yeah. And listen,
I was blocked because I don't have Apple News and I don't want to pay.
No, don't. So she was in a very skimpy, and listen, I am not she's 55 years old, right? She looks amazing. Amazing.
So would we, though, if we were airbrushed and had personal trainers and a lot of plastic surgery. Not that she looks like she's had tons of work, but all of the above, we would look a lot better. We've also seen, untouched versus retouched pictures, right? So, and this is and I am not, and I want to empower women to be doing everything, but I also want to empower women. You don't have to be wearing a bikini to still think that you're beautiful or sexy. I think she's fighting because she still wants to be the envy. Insatiable need for that
attention, male.
We get it. That's why people initially go into any and all businesses like that,
Well, I have never ever been and you can ask my husband, I was never somebody that was showing everything out in the club. Right. My uniform of choice at the bar, in my single days and when I met my husband was, a wife beater and low cut jeans. You know what I mean? It was never, I never wanted eyes. So when she's doing this, it's okay, it just appears thirsty because she's a stunning woman. You're a stunning woman if you're wearing a turtleneck. I just don't want women to think that in order to be considered beautiful, they have to be showing it all, because that just minimizes who we are. And I don't like it. I don't like that at all. Do you, but I don't like it.
The part that is always troubling to me is at what cost to your children? Because when you think about these celebrities, the children, and you look at, how things have played out in terms of what they get involved in, sometimes drug abuse, sometimes, a string of their own failed relationships and divorces. And I just always feel like it's so weird how we totally give the celebrity a pass that they don't have to be held accountable for family values or being like focused and concerned about the well-being of their kids. We just give everybody a pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, like because they're wealthy, then they should be allowed to have like multiple marriages and multiple baby daddies, and everybody is just like, oh, the kids are resilient, they're okay. And then I think we default to think because they have all the money in the world that we somehow then are going to let them, they're okay. Like we're going to just say, well, you know what? They're rich, so they're okay. No, they're not. So you know who really,
they need kids
who
need
really
time, not
blew
money.
the lid off of speaking of 50 Cent, I saw a TikTok where he's very disappointed in his son because he's like, I had to start grinding and hustling at 14 years old. Like he was working when he was a teen.
Who's?
50 Cent. And now he's blasting his son because the son is basically like, has no motivation and I'm just going to live off of dad's money. And he said, I'm truly disappointed that my son has zero work ethic. And he was basically saying, this is why you don't just hand the keys to the Porsche and the mansion over to the kids. You actually have to have some level of expectation that they're going to earn, you know, their own money. And he said that he's like, this is my money. Like I'm rich, but my kid isn't. Right. And so I just thought that was so fascinating.
That was a Heathcliff Huxtable line back in the day on the Cosby Show. And he said, no, we're rich. You have nothing.
Exactly. I love that.
And not to,
so speaking of rich, let's talk about Elon Musk, because these humanoids, they had this launch, I think it was just last night. So I'm seeing clips this morning on X. And when you watch the humanoids walk out on the catwalk, it does feel surreal because this is 2024.
And this is AI. This is all AI.
And we thought this would happen much sooner because remember years ago, years ago, you were always like in your mind, 2000 is going to be when we all have flying cars. And I think the technology has always been there. I think our culture is very slow to adapt to it in some respects, not when it comes to like smartphones and now ultimately AI, they're saying is going to accelerate faster than any previous technology of our time. But I just think that we are so disconnected now because of all of the digital access that we do still crave and long for personal connection, which makes it hard for us, I think, to truly suspend all control. Like you don't get to control the steering wheel of your car. You don't get to have some say in, you know, your interpersonal relationships. I just don't think that we all want to embrace and work around robots and have it be even more impersonal in our work world.
Well, I think it's just making us even lazier. We talk about our children being like my children, I love them. They lazy, right? Like, I mean, you know, they'll ask us, you know, how much, you know, for chores. You have a free house to live in. All those clothes that you have, all those electronics, that's your payday, right? So I fear for my children and all the kids. Kids don't already know how to have a conversation face to face. Like, you know, and I was actually surprised when Gia started doing her, you know, college recruiting thing. She actually blew me out of the water because the first interpersonal communication she had with an adult, I was there to witness it. And I'm like, okay, you're good. Like we've worked on this, but they don't know how to have a conversation. I've had interviews with people who have come in and they don't like look at me like eye to eye and then looking down at their phone and their fidget. I'm like, what's happening? And so I just don't want, I mean, you and I are writers and look at the chat bot. Like they're putting writers out of, everybody's using AI.
This humanoid video I saw.
The humanoid, I cannot even handle that.
The humanoid has a cowboy hat and is behind the bar serving a drink and was like holding up 2 fingers. Yeah, right. If you've ever been to our shows, you'll totally get the Ropoho reference. Yeah. So I was just fascinated by it. And then in the comments, all these people were like, they didn't even fill it all the way up, top me off. And then they said they were so slow. But here's what's so weird that you have to watch. They move, their mannerisms and the movements are very human-like. That's it's very surreal. It's not like the Transformers. It was like very human-like motions with hands and fingers.
Okay, so
you have to watch
is going to be
and there's a voice.
So Terminator,
there's an AI voice.
Are you okay?
They talk.
No. So Terminator is actually like now we're going to have to like.
It is like.
Are
Terminator.
you real or are you like a bot.
But here's the thing. Max Headroom, to date myself, that was an 80s voice-generated robotic person that was going to replace news anchors, was Max Headroom. What's funny is there's a bar in Cedar Falls, Roxy, where they have Max Headroom on a screen there because they have all these 80s references. I just remember watching Max Headroom and thinking, oh, like that's going to be the future and they're going to take our jobs. And that was decades ago, and that it's never happened. Well, sadly, I think sometimes seeing a robot do the news would be more satisfying because they wouldn't inject their personal opinion.
Their personal opinions.
So that would be nice to have some level of like neutrality with these humanoids. It's hard for me to imagine that you would be drawn to a humanoid doing the news in contrast to a fellow human, unless, like you described, that reality is stranger than fiction where we can't tell the difference.
I think that's what's going to happen.
That is good. You're right.
But then again, so many people are so fake anyway. So you never know what you're getting. So maybe it's like, okay. I mean, and hopefully these humanoids, maybe they don't come with feelings and they just tell you like factual things and they just are direct, because I would prefer that over.
The one thing that you described that's true, there's a flip side to that. When you talk about us being more lazy, the upside is we can also be way more efficient. So what we used to do in 20 minutes, now with the writing support of ChatGPT, you can do it in 20 seconds. So I think that's what's been really streamlined.
But still, the other thing is though, like I was just talking about this the other day, because you and we come from the news background life where everything was a deadline. I mean, deadline throughout the day, whether it was breaking news, we had to get out to the set, we had to write it, we had to deliver it, or it was like 3 newscasts in the evening that we had to get ready for. So what you and I can do, we had to do in 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Tops.
10 minutes. Yeah. Tops. So then we would parlay into the real world, and it was like, you have 8 hours a day. I'm done with my work at like 9:30.
The thing that you and I both have talked about, if anybody who's been in a fast-paced environment and then goes to the alternative will relate to this. I can't stand something where it's like, it's an 8-week project and you have all these milestone deadlines.
Let's check in.
We're like 8-minute projects. Yeah. I mean, and seriously, that was hard. The rhythm of work. And I remember when I first left TV and I went into school PR, one of my future coworkers, really was almost sounding the alarm. And she was like, we don't do anything fast here. And I thought, unfortunately, I don't want to live in that adaptive space. I want to, carve out, no, we can be more efficient and speed this process up. And so that was hard for some people to adapt to, because now, I was the new sheriff in town. And for me, it was like, get her done.
Yeah.
And I can't, that's how we were programmed. Right. And there's something to be said, for a little bit of balance. But if we could get back all those hours we've wasted having meetings, and then the meeting to talk about the meeting, and then the conversation about all the things all the checkpoints that we still haven't done, but we're working on it. And it's in progress. It's in process. I can't.
And listen,
the robots are going to get it done.
Yeah, the robots are going to get it done. They're going to and guess what? The robots are never going to say, hey, let's have a Zoom. No, listen, COVID made it okay to have Zooms because we couldn't meet in person. If it's still meant to be an email, keep it in email. Send an email. We do not have to have hey, this is the worst part when I get an email. Hey, Amanda, can we connect? No. Like I'm saying no. Like don't come at me with words like connect. Like I cannot. Connect? And when people are like, I'm just circling back, that's their polite way of saying, girl, you have not responded to me. Like, no.
I love it. The PC world of office speak. So my husband, as a retired teacher, that was the number one thing that was driving him into retirement, was how technology became such a burden, because during the day as a teacher, he was on his feet all the time, or he was teaching. And so getting hundreds of emails every day. And then when are you going to go back and look at those? And a lot of times it's understandably one teacher sending another teacher an email about a student, or so-and-so wants to transfer a class, and then the counselors. So you need like a second, hour, 2 hours after your main job to do all the emails. And so that for him just became such a huge stressor. It was really at times overwhelming. So I feel, especially as we get older, you know, you and I have had to adapt over the years to so many technology tweaks, and still do, with your computer and with the way that we would edit video and the way we would shoot video. I mean, we were like forced to embrace a lot of ever-changing technologies in our world of TV, whether we liked it or not. And now those technological advancements have impacted every space pretty much in the working world. So for a guy like my husband, who's in his 60s, that got really challenging as he got older, not wanting to do everything with Google platform and Google Docs. And, you know, he was old school and it was hard. And so I feel for those people on the job right now that are in that generation of baby boomers, where like you didn't grow up with smartphones. You were lucky if you had more than one landline in your home. I mean, think of how much things have evolved from their life to now, you know, their childhood to now. So it's sad. It's hard. And technology is now not the great equalizer. It's the great divider, where the younger generations, it's one more way they can look down on us old folks because we're not as well versed in their mind or adept at it. So
we can write cursive and you can't. How about that? We can write cursive, kids, and you can't. Like that's the thing. I think, you know, that's why I hate Snapchat. I do not have Snapchat. I don't like it.
Snapchat is weird.
We are literally there's a social media that's so popular. It's one of the most popular forms of social media where messages disappear. That is shady. I don't like it. And then people know if you screenshot, like they can see you take a screenshot, and it's causing so much drama. But when the kids are sending out streaks and then they're sending each other's foreheads, or like I will see my daughter do this, and she's like, and I'm like, you look so dumb. Like, what are you doing? Like, you look
so true.
Like,
they're snap streaks.
Like, we go back on our pictures, the ones that we had to take 2 weeks to get developed, and we are awkward.
They were so ugly.
Perms, braces, all the stuff. Like, everything today with kids, there's nothing candid. Everything, like, you look at the homecoming pictures, which everyone looked absolutely beautiful, stunning, handsome, all the things. But I'm like, no one is acting silly or being candid. Everything is, you know, the leg pop and the, yeah. What's that? What's that?
Like that.
Like, you live in Iowa. Calm down. Right? Like, there's no street cred. We've covered all the things today.
It's been so fun. I so look forward to my Friday mornings with you. Thank you for going it alone last week in your garage. And I love that I love what you said about your mom getting Aria the makeup kit.
Could you believe it?
I'm guessing you strike me as somebody who doesn't enjoy letting your kids do all those like messy projects.
No, but I did feel bad because one of Aria's little friends had a birthday party and she picked out slime. She picked out the slime kit to give to her friend. And I was like, no, let's not get the slime. And so I sent the mom a text message. I said, I'm just apologizing in advance for your daughter's gift. But my mother, who would never have gotten us makeup kit because it was messy, she sure sent one for her granddaughter. Mm-hmm. Funny how that works.
My mom was really good about letting the kids do the messes, and then she would have like the butcher block paper down or let them wear, you know, an apron and do the paint and all the things. And so she was definitely nice as a grandma to let them do that, because Dave is one who doesn't like the mess.
Oh, that's Hector.
I don't mind it.
I don't mind it either.
I mean, he hates the smash cake thing for the babies. He didn't want like our kids to have the cake.
That's so funny.
Even though we did do it and it was fun. I mean, but speaking of cake, one thing that it's so bad. I always go back to food. I don't like the tradition of like smashing wedding cakes in faces when the bride and groom do that. No. I'm not a fan of that.
My grandmother hated that. My sister and her husband, when they got married, my brother-in-law actually, he went deliberately, because they kept saying, you know, Mandy, we want you really close to us for the picture. I'm like, ew, why? They're like, oh, just get really close. So I stood next to my sister and my brother-in-law smashed the cake in my mouth. Like, so it was funny, but my grandmother, like old school Sicilian, was so mad, like storms out of the room. Like she's like, that is just so low budget. Like she was, why waste cake? You're wasting it if you're smashing it in someone's face. Eat that cake.
I will leave you with this. My friend Steve and Misty, they were married years ago in Yakima, Washington. He worked with me at the station. He was a director. So when Dave and I went to their wedding, I'll never forget the floor where they had a table that displayed this incredible 3-tiered cake. Something had happened where there was a little bit of an incline. Oh. And the way the table was situated, when all the guests walked by, somehow the table had sort of slid down precariously into more of the spot where there was an incline, which no one realized or noticed because it was so subtle. And I'll never forget, we were sitting there eating the meal, awaiting the cake cutting to come, and the the dispersal of the cake that I was so looking forward to. And all of a sudden, we hear this crash, and the cake toppled. And it was the slow motion where everybody is, no, and they're all like rushing forward to get it. The good news about me is, and you'll appreciate this, I'm all about that 5-second rule. Thankfully.
You went over there and picked up the cake.
Even if the top tier touched, I was still willing to eat it.
She went over and did it.
So they salvaged it. And even though it was very smashed and, you know, not as presentable, it was so good. I'm so glad I ate it.
I'll eat something off the floor too. I don't even care.
Oh, in the newsroom, we had pizza out all night from the election night, and then we'd come in the next day, and I would be eating it after it was sitting out all night.
And let me tell you why. We will finish on this. I won't tell you why that I ate everything. The 5-second rule. I partied in college basements in the 90s. And if you ever went to college in the 90s, which a shout out to Slippery Rock University, they're having homecoming this weekend. My sorority sisters, Kappa Delta. Yes, I was a sorority girl. They are out there, but we partied in basements where it looked like you were going to get some kind of communicable disease going into these basements. So you are immune to everything. That is why I eat anything. I will eat anything off the floor because I survived the basement parties of the late 90s. Well, we went long. Sorry.
Thank you for spending part of your day with us. We hope you make it a great weekend. We're so excited to be heading to Diamond Joe tomorrow, where we will take the stage at the Mississippi Moon Bar, 8 o'clock. Crazy. We'd love to see you there, and check out our website, or actually our Facebook page, Faith in 4-Letter Words. We have an incredible fall and winter tour lined up, and we can't wait to come to a town near you.
Have a good day.